Authorities in South Carolina have officially removed the Confederate flag from the state capitol. In fact, we have a video showing it happening, and about 10,000 people actually showed up to watch the ceremony. Take a look. So the flag is actually going to be displayed in a museum, the Confederate Relic Room and Military Museum to be exact, and it's been flown in the state capitol for the last 54 years. So this was obviously a very respectful way of taking that flag down.
Yeah. So it's a cool moment to see it go down finally, right? And I like what appeared to be two good old boys wrapping it up, right? I don't know anything about them. I'm sure they're perfectly lovely guys, but they're never meaning no harm. so they wrap up the General Lee, and then I like the way they rolled it up too. They're like, it got nice and tight. They're like, where do we put this thing? Where do we stick this thing? And then they handed it off to a black guy who was like, yeah, enough of this.
I'll show you where to stick it.
Yeah, and then that's that.
Yeah.
So I like that people showed up and it was a thing. And notice what Anna just said. It was up for 54 years. Now it seems like a long time, but it actually is not that long. Because, if it was the Confederate flag for the rebellion that South Carolina started.
Why didn't it go up in the 1800s?
That's why it wasn't up for 154 years. Oh, right, because they put it up on purpose about 50 years ago when they were integrating the South, and they didn't want to be integrated, and they thought black people were inferior to them, and they didn't want to mix with black people. That's why they hung up the flag in the first place. Not after the war. Not after. They waited 100 years, okay? And then they're like, oh, okay, here we go now. Okay, oh, you're trying to integrate us? You're trying to get rid of our Jim Crow laws? No. Fly the flag. That's what that flag was, definitively stood for racism. That's exactly what it stood for. That's why they hung it up 54 years ago, and I love that they took it down.
But it also kind of stood for the impotence of that racism in their own power since they couldn't stop integration.
Well, the Confederacy's been about impotence from day one. They lost the war, they lost their attempts to stop the civil rights movement, and now there's rage in South Carolina.
They were able to stop Reconstruction.
Yes, that's true. For 100 years, they kept black people down after the Civil War, right? And so that's absolutely right. And there was a lot of violence and terrorism that went along with that. Some of the worst terrorists this country's ever seen were in the South. There's just no other way of putting it. There were KKK and all those guys, the lynchings, etc. Terrorism like this country has never seen, okay? And hopefully we'll never see again. And so it's a great day when we take the sign of the terrorists and the traitors down, okay? And that's exactly what happened.
So you know what? I shouldn't be surprised by this, but it was really difficult for state legislators to vote in favor of taking that flag down. In fact, there had to be a lot of concessions by those who wanted to take the flag down. They have to spend millions of dollars on a shrine for that flag, for Confederates, in order to agree to taking that flag down. So like people who live in the state have to pay through taxes to get that flag down and to build a shrine.
Yeah, because there's got to be a compromise.
Yeah, that's a compromise.
Right, and people were so mad at Nikki Haley. Some of the conservatives were like, oh, I voted for you, thinking that you'd do what we told you to do, but then you went and became brown and took down the flag. They said they were polite enough to say she was a brown noser. And they're like, oh, you're just, it turns out you're just like Obama. And again, you let the minority win over the majority. Again. Yeah, I know. In South Carolina, the minority's been On a 200-year winning streak, I know.
Someday, the white man is going to get their day in South Carolina. And I just want to be around for that day so I can stick it right in her brown nose face. So I'm glad that they took the Confederate flag down and now racism is over in South Carolina, which is nice.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not a
thank
distraction whatsoever that the piece of cloth that represented the racism is now taken down, but it's in a shrine. Also, this was all started because a white supremacist went and shot up a church and killed a bunch of black people. They haven't done anything to change the gun laws. Right? They didn't have anything to help the mentally ill in South Carolina. They haven't done anything to take a look at the white ring racist groups, and nothing. They've done nothing except take the flag down. But I guess that's good, right? I don't want to be. That's something.
Yeah, look, I want the flag down. I'm very happy about that. But you're right. Of course, it is largely symbolic. It's a very important symbol.
Right.
And it's important that that symbol be taken down. But at the same time, yeah, guns are a huge issue. Are they ever going to do anything about guns in South Carolina? I don't know, man. It might take another 150 years before they realize, oh, right, the guns are the ones that shoot the bullets that kill the people. Wow, Jesus, why don't we think of that earlier?
It's not even about what they do about guns in South Carolina. What are they going to do about guns on a federal level? Because there are lots of issues on a federal level when it comes to gun control. Even when it comes to laws that we already have in place, there is a lot of incompetent behavior, FBI officials not doing their jobs. We're going to get to that story a little later on in the show. But even the gun laws we have in place now aren't effective enough because they're not actually being enforced the way they're supposed to be enforced.
But I think Bernie Sanders is coming under fire for this gun issue because he's trying to make the point that guns in rural America are not the same as guns in the city, which that's true. It's like, trying to say that someone who lives in a rural environment where there is no city should be able to own all the guns they want. I'm all for that. But in the city, it's different. It's like it's trying to compare a side street with a freeway, right? On a freeway, you get to go 75 miles an hour. That's like the country. But in a city, sometimes you can only go 10 miles an hour. Certain places you go 5 miles an hour. So that's what, the analogy I'm trying to make is they're different. You can't have one blanket law for places that aren't similar.
Wait a minute, Jimmy, I thought we were libs. I thought we were going to ban guns for everybody across the country.
No liberal I know wants to do that.
Yeah.
No, I know some that do. I mean, look, you can have a hard time banning anything as, printing technology gets better and better and better, because you will be able to print
a gun.
An effective gun. I mean, you can already do it now, but you're definitely going to be able to do it in 4 to 5 years.
Look, we have the same issue, even if you want to do that the conservatives have on illegal immigration, which is, okay, you've got 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country. What are you going to do with them, right? What are you going to just round them all up and send them out? Realistically, you're not going to be able to do that, right? We have about 250 to 300 million guns in the country. What are we going to do? Round them up? We're not going to round them up. What's done is done. All we could do is get to a little bit saner position now on further gun use. I mean, I forget which country now, but I read about a country that, I think it was Australia, that after they passed a law, they actually wound up collecting a lot of the guns back. They actually literally got them out of people's hands, and you know what happened? No mass shootings done. The amount of gun violence, amount of deaths, way down, right? But data be damned. I mean, you know, facts are stubborn things.
Heads are exploding as you propose something like that.
Yeah, but you know what? Australia now less free. Officially back to a penal colony.
Well, actually, Australia is less free under the Abbott government.
I know.
A lot of the laws
matter.
they pass, but
Right.
it's a different problem.
I say we round up those 300 million guns in America and deport them to Mexico. How about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, no.
I think they'd be for that if we deported them.
And Trump's going to make Mexico pay for it.
Yes, pay.